is not about the LTT. Nothing. And why restrict it to the last 2 months of the war? Why? We have fought a 30-year-long war, right? I think someone pointed this out. They're talking about civilians not being given food and so on in the last 2 months. Are they assuming, they're implying that up to that point, civilians were provided water, food, medication, vaccinations, all education, health facilities. The government in this so-called de facto state of Elam that they talked about a lot, the salaries were still paid by the Sri Lankan state, right? The vaccinations came from Sri Lankan state. Everything came from Sri Lankan state. Anyway, that's a different issue altogether. But the crux of this whole thing is to target the Sri Lankan government, right? Unfairly. I mean, we can also talk about the law of the issue of equality. Why Sri Lanka? Why not the United States of America? What they have done in other countries, how we are treating IDPs, how the IDPs in Pakistan, over 2 million IDPs in Iraq, created by certain similar, war situations. What has our track record been? What has their track record been? Why a panel of advisors for us? Why not for them? Those issues are also there, but the global, it's not a flat world. Some people have power, some people have guns, some people have money, others don't, and the leverages are different.
Well, another area that was of interest to us is the fact that on the page 8, they mention the LTT began as a Tamil liberation movement and eventually became the most disciplined and most nationalist of the Tamil militant groups, emerging as the dominant force, espousing a separatist agenda in the mid-1980s. How come an organization once known and labeled for brutality and was banned in many democratic countries, including many countries in Europe, become a nationalist group, especially in a scenario where the right-thinking Tamils have rejected them wholesale?
Well, that's an opinion where you can have nationalist organizations that engage in genocide. You can, Hitler's Germany, Nazis, they were nationalists, and they were very disciplined at killing people. The LTT was very disciplined in terms of snatching children and putting a gun into their hands and turning them into child soldiers. They were very disciplined in carrying out horrendous crimes against humanity, massacring villages. They were very disciplined when they ethnically cleansed the Jaffna Peninsula of all Muslims. They were very disciplined when they shot in cold blood 600 policemen June 11th, 1990 in the Eastern Province from 3 police stations. They lined them up and shot them. 600 were very disciplined, very clinical. That, I mean, see, this is the way that these words are put. It gives a kind of a, creates an image of a, not ruthless, they are not saying ruthless, but very efficient, very disciplined. When you say disciplined, you think of Shantadanta kind of people. No? They don't do any wrong. They know that this is wrong, so they won't do that. So that statements like that makes one question.
Isn't a statement of this nature bringing some humiliation to those countries who banned the LTT? I mean, those very countries are supporting certain motives or causes of the UNSC, but these panelists describe LTT as disciplined and nationalist.
But it's up to that particular country if they feel that they have been belittled or ridiculed to respond. If they're going along, it's like politics. No permanent enemies, no permanent friends. Saddam Hussein was once a friend. Saddam Hussein was later an enemy. Osama bin Laden was once a friend when the Mujahideen were fighting the Soviets. Then he became an enemy. Manuel Noriega was once a friend. Then he became an enemy. So even in the international arena, it depends on that particular country's particular interest at that particular point. If you are serving their purpose, yes. If not, you are an enemy. Libya was quite happy with the West at one particular point, so he was a friend. All of a sudden, Libya became the bad guy. Before that, again, Libya was the bad guy. Same with Egypt. So I don't think that the shame is an important element in how these people view these things. There is no shame.
Well, for you and I, for any conscious Sri Lankan, this report is unfair. That is from a Sri Lankan perspective. What do you think, how the international community would look at? Would they also take to our story, and would they also feel that this is very unfair on the part of the Sri Lanka to be pressurized like this?
I think, Mahesh, that anyone who has any intelligence or any integrity will object to this on grounds of intellectual sloth, if not for anything. They have been so careless. I think they have been too emotional about it. If they were very more clinical about it, maybe they would have come up with a more reasonable document. But in a rush to vilify the Sri Lankan government and the security forces, they made a lot of errors in this. So it doesn't matter whether you are Sri Lankan or non-Sri Lankan. You are given a document, you are given a set of facts, and you assess that, and then you rubbish this. This is rubbish. But right now we have China, Russia, who have come up saying that Sri Lanka should manage its own affairs. They have their own reconciliation process. We have the LLRC. Let that go. Let Sri Lanka recover. Kind of thing. France, their representative, the permanent representative in Geneva, has said, let Sri Lanka manage their own affairs. Right? But we should not take anything for granted. Today's friend, but tomorrow might be our enemy. So let us, we should constantly, to the best of our ability, we are not the richest country in the world, we are not the most powerful. I mean, we are a small country. We are actually, fighting above our weight. But let us do our best to correct the record, set the record straight about what has happened. I think my suspicion is that for years we were told to fight the war in a particular kind of way. We have seen how the allied forces, the coalition of the willing and so on, have been fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's about massacre so many people, then we get what we want. But they cannot understand that we fought the war in a different kind of way, that we considered the civilian costs, and we did our best under all kinds of constraints. We did our best, and we succeeded. We not only did the impossible, they thought the LTT cannot be destroyed, but we did it with minimum cost to the civilians. I mean, no other country in the history of the last 30 years have executed any military action with this minimum, and what the cost to the civilians has to the absolutely minimum compared to, say, we can talk about Osama bin Laden and or weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
However, the biggest question mark would be the double standard that we see in the world. When Sri Lanka dismantled the complete military apparatus of a ruthless terrorist group, recognized by the world, rejected by the world, banned by the world, that is so wrong for us to celebrate our victory or celebrate the dismantling of a terrorist group. However, and those visuals video footage were announced no sooner the particular leader was assassinated or particular leader was